Hi guys, I'm John. I'm lead dev at Badass Studios. Believe me, I didn't come up with the name. The founders have this funny story about how my boss's name is Alexander Scale Sanguine, and his initials spell ass. So our other founder's first name is Ben, so he's the bad. So they say that. I don't really believe it, but that's not up to me. So I joined Badass a little under 2 years ago, and I handle a lot of the programming, and I do a lot of the prototyping for new ideas before they get made for real. And now that we have more developers, I've been focusing on the broadcast side of our projects and prototyping new features still, but I'll just show you, So, quick introduction. Simply put, we do live events, and we make them more fun and interactive with digital twins. So on the right, you can see we've turned our dear Nancy into a metahuman because we thought it would be fun. Another one of those prototype projects, they were like, cool, we need a website, and we don't really want to show our real faces for some reason, so here's metahuman. And then on the left, it's a live VR show, also a prototype. You can pay money, you can walk in, and you can watch a show. Kind of like that Fortnite one that people did a little bit ago. But we did this in Unreal, which is also Fortnite's Unreal, but a little bit more proprietary. So we're currently a small startup. We've got 10 people. We're still hiring. We're expanding more. And I'm sure it's easier to see what we've been doing rather than just hear me talk forever. So here is a extended proof of concept we did for the Red Bull Gaming Sphere. We partnered with Red Bull. They hosted a tournament, and this was used for a Rocket League tournament in London. There's also some Valorant stuff in there, but our tournament was for Rocket League, so I want to talk about that. So we built the gaming sphere in Unreal Engine, like the physical space in Unreal Engine, and then we made it so we can interact with the space in AR or through a browser, through pixel streaming. And then we made it so that you can put on VR goggles and walk around if you wanted to. And while this is the concept for the gaming event that actually happened, we can extend this to other stuff like concerts and football games, and we've been testing on golf tournaments. So the idea is that we can capture a live event as it happens, and as a viewer, you can feel and experience the live event while not actually physically being there. And then we can, of course, add some cool things like mini games and like AR pop-ups and other digital interactions that can't actually happen in real life, like the Valorant pop-ups that you just saw. So let's talk about the actual Red Bull event rather than the VR concept. So this was an actual Rocket League esports tournament with people were paid to play the game, and it was broadcasted on Twitch. But we did some augmentations to it, like live VR match viewing. So you can put on these goggles, you can watch the match in real time, and then you can watch from different point of views. So you can either have like a flying cam and watch over from the top, or you could get into the actual seat of the car and tumble around with the car. We did have a puke bucket. It was used a few times. And we did tell them, you might have to puke if you're going to pick that button. And then people were like, yeah, I'm the best. And they clicked the button, and then, yeah. So we also had some VR live driving gameplay. Yes, it's a Rocket League tournament, so we tried to make as close as we could to Rocket League. And it looks and plays like Rocket League, because Rocket League is also an Unreal Engine game. So there's that, but you got to do it in VR, so it's a little cooler. And then we had the tabletop version. We gave everyone little phone tablets and all those little apps, and you can point at a table, and then you can watch the game on AR. So any table, just as long as there's a phone, you can point it at it and be like, yeah, that's my team. They're winning or losing. And finally, we had also part of the app, you could take your favorite team, put their card decals, and take photos with it. So that was what we did for the Red Bull event. So another company we work with is E1. And E1 is an electric boat racing series. They work with a boat manufacturer called Seabird Technologies, and they want to generate greater awareness for greener marine practices. And they are part of the same organization as Formula E and Extreme E. And what they do is, to generate awareness, they have these like super rich guys like Will Smith and LeBron James and Tom Brady, Rafa Nadal, Aoki, those guys. And they go, yeah, you can own a team. You get your name plastered all over the boat. And in return, you guys go, yeah, let's make some greener boat practices. And the series is broadcasted in the UK on ITV4 and several other channels around the world, and is also streamed on YouTube. I don't know the other channels around the world because I watch on YouTube when I do my broadcast work. So they also pick and race in cool locations like Monaco, Miami, Dubrovnik, Lake Como. Just pick cool locations and they go, this place is nice, we race here now. There were a few pictures. So this one is in Qatar, and this is the actual broadcast of it. Okay. And there are some in-game views and VR views that you could tab around in that you couldn't actually get in the actual race itself. So this is the broadcast. I literally ripped this from the YouTube stream. It's a combination of AR for showing the race itself and a digital twin overview when the director wants to show an overarching storyline or like the general state of a race. And getting a physical drone into location, as well as getting the drone permits and the permits to use those drones in those specific locations, is actually a pain, as I've been told. So what we've been doing is using our digital environment, we can switch to an overview or views that don't have on the drone. And since the director has control of the whole broadcast, he can switch to anything he wants at any time, and no one can say no. He just doesn't have to fly a drone, he clicks a button, and he can see it. So this saves them a lot of money and lets us have cool shots like following boats across the finish line. And as I said before, Badass works with interactive experiences with digital twins, and now we're actively expanding into using these digital twins to create more interactive products, namely games in AR, VR, and physical booths. And what you're seeing here is an AR app that lets you watch the race from above, which you probably saw a concept of in the Red Bull event. And it gives you events when you point your camera at a race boat. So you can point your camera at a race boat that you see zooming by and be like, yeah, that's Aoki's boat, and it's fast. Well, you can now know specifically how fast, and you can know some cool nerdy facts like how fast the engine is going, or what degree it is inside the cockpit. And this differs from the AR portion of the broadcast, because this one's on your phone, and anytime you're in the area, you just have to point it at anything you think is cool, and we'll probably have something to tell you about it. So this one, gaming, the game as a concept, I was on a call, and someone said, hey, the raceboat drivers are allowed to drive the raceboats, but I want to too. And we didn't want to say no. So thanks to Cesium, we were able to have a super basic prototype up and running within a week, actually. And is this playing? And the early testers really, really enjoyed the demo. And we eventually increased the scope of our project from just a game that we could play on controller to a full-size racing sim. And the racing sim became like a staple of our on-site entertainment. And in addition to the race, became super popular to the point where we had to limit the playtime per player, because people would get on and they would be like, one more, one more, one more, one more. Well, there's like 5 people behind you. You can't say one more. Except the 5 people was a line so long that people were getting heat stroke, and we felt bad. So we coded a hard limit of 2 minutes. So you could finish a race in 2 minutes, or you can get off, you know. But also somewhat as a tradition, because we let the Racebird pilots test the sims, and they were like, so is this real? Is this like, does this feel right? And then they really enjoyed it. Now they all race on the racing sims before they race in the physical races. So that's pretty cool. They also do this thing where they're super competitive with each other, and they will keep saying, one more, that last one where I lost was a fluke. And they will keep racing each other until the race actual comes, and then their handlers come and they go, it's time to leave. You can't play anymore. Also, we haven't told them yet, but the record for our fastest run is held by a 13-year-old boy, not them. So as a bonus, here is one of our super early booth tests. And this is Steve Aoki, and one of the Saudi princes, actually. And they're racing on the Jeddah track against each other. So, super funny story. I'm gonna keep this super short. I think I'm a little bit behind. So when we were doing this, we had a lot of issues, like when we were moving our PCs, like everyone's got setup issues, right? So we got there, we're missing a full set of screws. We couldn't figure out how to put up the vent booths, and then some of our people were just running around trying to get screws. And then we had some PC issues, and we had connectivity issues because we ended up having to use Starlink because the internet was being spotty. And then we finally get all that working, and I'm supporting from Philly here, and it's 4 a.m. for me. I've been up since 1, and everyone's like, oh, it finally works. And then immediately, a man comes, goes, can His Royal Highness play the game? And I go, oh, fun. And everything worked fine, so that's why we have a video, and I haven't been yelled at. So let's get into talking about Cesium, because that's what you guys are here for. How does Badass use Cesium? We use Cesium in a lot of our stuff, actually. But basically, we have to think about the area in which we are using the Cesium, and then the quality of the 3D scans actually dictates how useful Cesium is for the project. And since there's no pictures on this slide, you'll get them as I explain more. So some cities, like Philly, have really, really good scans. And other cities, like Jeddah, instead of getting an actual scan, you get an image. It's a PNG, basically. And depending on the scans, we can do one of 3 things. So we can have early blockouts and references. We can use for very far away backgrounds that the camera's not pointing at. Or we can use it as actual background environments where the camera's still kind of pointing at it, but it's not really like the direct focus of it. So this is the racing boat prototype. This is the one we built in a week. So basically, in this one, we were in a call. I told you guys earlier, in a call, someone says, I want to drive the boats, but I'm not allowed to. And then they said, can you make a game? So this is where Cesium came in super handy. We already had some of the virtual twin stuff, and then we just made it so you can move the boats. And then we used Cesium for the background. And you can get these visually impressive environments immediately, like in this freeze frame, if you ignore the left, right, and throttle on the left side. Looks pretty nice, right? All we did was slap Cesium in, and we cut out the little edges where the play zone is, and we put it in our own water. We added some prominent buildings, and then that's it. This is the demo we had for a week. And in the same vein, while not really a prototype, we can use Cesium in testing environments, where we're testing to make tools we've created are working while seeking visual approval from a director or another source. So this video right here is something we ended up showing to the E1 director. And we looked for his approval on the camera positions and the controller, and we were discussing the placements of some of the advertising and text panels. We were also showing off some of the features. Don't worry, it's supposed to go through that. We were also just having a basic train from Cesium in the area, regardless of how awful the environment data is, actually lets us get a good overview of the scene itself so we can show a director or something. And lets us make decisions on how to progress the project without actually having to fully build into something and commit before someone goes, oh, let's change that camera angle. Well, we've already started building out this whole area, but with Cesium, we can go, hey, I don't like this camera angle, and then we can know immediately. So one thing Cesium does super well, regardless of most data types, is the topography. So in environments where there's not a lot of buildings, putting in a Cesium map lets us create a more natural and correct environment as fast as possible. And this lets us put in an Unreal Engine environment to sculpt it to match, and then this lets us cut out the Cesium afterwards if we have a camera pointing directly at this area. So this gets us a super accurate environment, and it's really fast. So in this scene right here, you can actually see it on the very far back. I don't know if you can see my mouse. Can't. On the very far back, you can actually see Cesium clipping into our initial Unreal Engine terrain. But it was just something I wanted to point out. You can just, this is like very early on project part of the specific zone. So, oops. Please go back. So this is a more finalized version of a different map because I don't usually take work in progress shots, and I actually had to dig into our Slack to find the last one. So this is the finalized version of a little bit of a different map. But as you can see, we've added our own environments in, we've added our own buildings, we've added our own lights, and this doesn't look anything like the previous one. And this one actually had a really fast turnaround because we had Cesium, and we didn't have to recreate everything from scratch. And this is a video of that previous working map, and this is what it ended up being. So let's see, 2 minutes left, and I will try to go as fast as possible. So I will move on. But that's basically what it ended up being. This is an intro video we played before each of the races. So finally, let's talk about when the data is like really, really bad, like absolutely hard. So I would consider data to be really bad when there's barely any topography, and some of the pictures and buildings are either there just in spirit or just not there at all. And in this case, we can still use Cesium to speed up our environment development. So this is E1 Jeddah, and as you can see, it's just flat. And there's another case for Doha here, where you get the mountains and there's nothing else. So these buildings you see in the front, we made those. So what we can do is, since all of these locations are in Google Maps and it's a top-down view, we can still use these Cesium locations to help us mark where we're supposed to put our buildings, actually. So from a top-down view, we can place the buildings where they're marked on Cesium, and then we get geographically correct building locations without actually spending the time and place to go, here's the address, here's how far it is from the next building. And we can do this super fast, and then we don't have to worry about anything. So since I'm reaching the end, basically, good usage of Cesium depends on the quality of the zone in question. No matter the quality, though, Cesium brings value by letting us place quick environments, and then we can progress on making the actual meat and bones of the project. Actually, and if the quality is good, we can actually keep it for later. Having Cesium placed in the world lets you reference the topography of each zone, and you can place your terrain really, really accurately, as well as the top-down references, even if it isn't. Finally, if we have super good 3D data, we can use it to actually be in the scene. We can have it be in front of the camera and just replace the super close stuff with high-fidelity stuff so no one questions it. Or we can just leave it all the way in the back, and then people go, cool, that's a mountain, and then you don't have to worry about anything at all. But that is roughly it.